Welcome to the Men on Purpose podcast, featuring dynamic conversations with emerging and established visionary men on purpose. Thanks for joining us today as we celebrate the men on purpose who are committed, creative, courageous changemakers, living their best, most fulfilling life possible. Now, here's the host of Men on Purpose, Ian Lobos.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Men on Purpose podcast. Today, we are going to have some fun. I promise you, this thing is evolving, elevating, and empowering every week. I'm going to make this thing better and better for you. That's my commitment. I'm going to get the best people on this mic, and I want them to deliver the highest level information, whether you're just starting in your development journey or you're going from level 20 to 50, we're going to deliver for you. That's my commitment. And I'm going to raise the bar every single time. Today, my guest, great friend of mine, Vaughn Gittin Jr., professional race car driver. And this dude literally is a professional fun haver. The dude's always smiling, and his mission in life and his purpose is to have fun at every single thing he does and put a smile on people's faces. I mean, how awesome is that? Now, what you're going to learn from this episode is the dude drops gold after gold, after gold, after gold. So get your pen and paper ready, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not taking notes, you're missing out. Yeah, listen to it all the way through. It's a long episode, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's gold from start to finish. I promise you, it is well worth it. And Vaughn and I have a blast together. We talk about anything and everything. Nothing's off the table, but I'm going to tell you he's going to describe his start, his build, how he developed what he developed, and how he had fun doing everything he's doing. I absolutely love it. Let me tell you a little bit about Vaughn. So Vaughn is a world champion drifter, and like I said, he's a professional fun haver. Vaughn Gittin Jr. is known for his aggressive, foot to the floor, big driving style from behind the wheel of arguably the most recognizable cars in the sport, the 2019 Monster Energy Ford Mustang RTR Spec 5D. Also, we're going to mention Vaughn's websites within. If you want to have some fun and just watch some wild, crazy stuff, you got to go to his websites. So in the United States, Vaughn won his first drift title in 2010, and it literally just rocked and rocked and rocked from there. He started drifting way back. He's going to tell us all about that. He's a 3-time World Drift Series champion. In 2005, he became the first American ever to win a D1 Grand Prix event when he stood atop the podium in 2005 USA versus Japan competition. And then Vaughn again brought the title home for the U.S. in the 2007 World Championship. As a professional fun haver and World Championship drifter, Vaughn is not a one-trick pony. He literally spans all disciplines of motorsports, and he just loves having a damn good time. He does off-road. He literally does everything. So Vaughn's based in my hometown, Baltimore, Maryland, and he's the owner and driver for the RTR Drift Team. And I didn't know this, and he reveals this in the episode, and I've known Vaughn for a long time, but RTR stands for Ready to Rock, and that's so cool. So in 2010, he launched the Mustang Rtr, which was his vision for a new generation of Mustang that's available at select Ford dealerships worldwide. And if you've never seen this car, I'm going to tell you right now, it's mind-blowing. I'm not telling you that because I know Vaughn. I'm telling you that because it's one of the sickest cars I've ever seen. And he's got a 2019, he introduced the Ford F-150 RTR. And you can find out more about that at his website, rtrvehicles.com. In addition to his competition career, he's an approachable media personality who's appeared on many popular television shows, including Rob Dietrich's Fantasy Factory and Ridiculousness. He's hosted NBC sports programs, Octane Academy, and appears regularly on Formula Drift TV. Look, this is going to be a long episode. Again, get that pen and paper ready. You're going to learn so much from Vaughn, dropping nuggets of gold and having a damn good time doing it. So Vaughn, welcome to the Men on Purpose podcast, brother.
Well, thanks for having me, man. Pumped to chat, Ian.
Yeah, this is fun, dude. It's interesting. Like I was talking about, how I know you in the intro a little bit. Now we live in the same town. We have the same friend group, and it's interesting because sometimes you don't find out about what somebody does as their passion. You only find out what somebody does as like their sort of their profession and like that professional life. And even the first time I met you, which we were just talking about, like, I had no clue. Like, I saw the Ford badge on your truck. I saw a couple little things, but I never put anything together that you were the level of what you are in the world that you play in. And we're going to get into that. So take us back to early years, man. Like who were you as a kid? What kind of started to define you? And then we're going to move into some professional stuff.
Yeah. So, growing up, I grew up in a split household. My mom and my father had split when I was pretty young, and my mom had married my stepfather when I was 5. And but I had a great relationship with all of them. Like, I was very grateful for what I had. I had an awesome stepfather, awesome mom, and my dad was just amazing. So growing up, my dad was a used car salesman. I think, he was probably my biggest influence into what I've become, and the fact that, he used to bring home all these cars. I mean, he was a gearhead. He used to always bring in just weird, random cars my whole life. And, I was that kid that, by the time I was 5, I could tell you a car by its headlights and taillights. Like, I was that guy. Matchbox cars. I mean, they literally had to pry Matchbox cars out of my hands at my mom's wedding when I was supposed to be the ring bearer. She showed me these photos. And, so at 4 years old, I got a little go-kart, and I call it a little shitty yard cart. Back then it was the coolest thing ever, but knowing what it was now is just, they made it cool, and I'm not like being ungrateful for it. It's just, but I had the time of my life with it. And,
sure.
When I'd go visit my dad, we would go to these industrial parks, and, I vividly remember just going as fast as I could with this little thing and pulling the little paddle brake and like skidding. And I just like thought it was the coolest thing ever. And, growing up, my dad would take me to, street races, and he'd do burnouts and donuts, and, further that, teenage years, BMX, skateboarding, motocross. And I just always loved that. I did play some like organized sports. I played soccer for like 10 years, basketball, lacrosse, baseball. I was a pretty active kid, and always had a lot of friends, and just, was just very social, and, very comfortable being me. I did decent in school. And then, when I got out of high school, I went to community college, and I knew that I was really good at computers. I'm that generation. I was on the BBS boards and 56K modems and AOL. Like, I grew up in that world, and I was, very quickly at that age, I always had an entrepreneur mindset. Let me reverse a little bit. I was always, and I was 12, 13. I was delivering newspapers. I was delivering newspapers, and I would cut grass and do leaves. And so I would hire my friends to work for me to help me go do grass and leaves around the neighborhood. In fact, I got a funny photo of me driving my parents' Heckinger's lawnmower with my boy on the front facing me, like pushing the lawnmower behind him, going down the road. And like that's what we would do. And that's how I would make money and afford what I wanted. My mom was always, I'm really grateful for this now. I was pissed back then, but my mom would always give me a budget of only $30 for shoes. And I was a skater, and like, there's no way I'm wearing $30 shoes,
No.
But I had to work to get my shoes. And, those little things, I mention these because I think they're important for any parents or anyone out there. Those little things made me who I am. Like, not, yes, they could afford to buy me the $60 or $80 shoes that I wanted, but the fact they didn't give them to me taught me, working for the things that I want. And so that really stuck with me through my entire life. And, following high school, at the end of high school, you're like, oh, what am I going to do? I think that's something that most people go through. And I realized, look, I knew computers, and I knew the difference between me and my parents' generation because they had no clue. And like, I'm always teaching them. And I'm like, there's something here with this movement. So I went to school for information systems, and that basically very quickly while I was in college, sorry, I'm a little brain fried.
It's all good, man.
While I was in college, I had a detail business, and I was detailing. I was doing stuff for my dad, who was a wholesaler, and a couple little used car lots. But my big contract, here I was 18 years old, and my big contract was with Peterbilt of Baltimore.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I was making $500 a truck detailing. And so, that was my hustle through college. And long story short, I went to college for a year and a half, realized I hated math, I hated science, and all the things that you had to do to get your degree. And this is around the time where there was those ads like Microsoft certified, $75,000 a year, And so I quit college and went and got Microsoft certified. And that effectively was what springboarded me into a career as an IT guy that ultimately would afford me to build my first cars, afford me to go to my first events, and then effectively also, teach me about marketing and sales and all the things that I need to do as a core to being a pro athlete and own the businesses that I do now. So, thanks for the question, because it's always cool to look back on those things.
Sure.
It's always fun. But, yeah, man, I grew up loving cars. Loving cars was always my hobby and my passion. And I always say, the IT job was a way to support my drug habit of cars, because literally that's all I did. Like, I worked and did car stuff. And that was that. So.
That's awesome. I want to go back to something, because you mentioned that it was super important or life-changing. When your mom gave you that budget, like, what was going through your mind back then? Are we talking like 6 years old or 10 years old, or how old were you? Because I think that to expand on that, I had that same thing. And I remember the day that my dad said, all right, you got enough money to buy Air Jordans. And I don't know I remember how old I was, but we went to Hunt Valley Mall, and it was like, I felt disconnected. I felt like it wasn't real. Like, I'm going to have those shoes that I really want. So I understand that. But what was that for you? Like, why was that so life-changing?
Yeah, I just remember, like, I think it probably was middle school where I cared. Like, I don't think I cared. I cared a little bit in elementary school, because I remember, like, getting a pro player, which was like the competitor to starter jackets. And I remember at some point I had the pump Reeboks when I was playing basketball. But it really was like middle school, which is where I was like, everyone else got these sweet shoes. I want cool shoes. I mean, shoes were like, I felt an important thing for some reason. But my mom just held fast on that. And, it was important enough for me to go and buy them. And like, I remember back in the day, like middle school, like Guess jeans were a thing, or like In Styles. I remember she was only going to buy me the $20 Kmart Lees, and I needed the Guess. So I had to figure out how to make the money, and, so that, I was able to, I had a deal with my dad. He gave me, he would give me $20 an A. And in elementary school, when you got like 20 grades, like that was sweet, because I would get like 5 A's and get like $100.
Right.
But then as it got into middle school and high school, that wasn't as cool anymore. So, because you only got like 5 or 6 grades, and I wasn't getting that many A's. It was just a cool thing to me, that, and looking back on, like, back then I was pissed. I was like, you're not gonna buy me, you got $20 extra. I can't get the $50 shoes. But now, like, I know why she did it, and she's always been very frugal. And I wouldn't say that I'm frugal, but it's made me smart. I still to this day am not like, you might argue when you see the things I've acquired with vehicles and things, but like, I'm still not like frivolous. Like, I always have a justification for something. I'm certainly not a guy that just like blow money,
No, that's
because of my.
Yeah, I love that, man. So do you think that it was – I think like the schools that I went to, and we like even in middle school, like I had a starter jacket, and I think that my dad, and he'll say the same thing, was living vicariously through me. He taught me the value of very hard work and hustle, but then he wanted me to have the things that his dad could never afford for him. So there was a really good balance, I felt like. And it taught me a lot about hard work and hustle, because he would always say to me, he wrote this piece of paper up on this bulletin board in our kitchen. He would say, here's how many hours I had to work in my business to get this for you to enjoy this. So just associate hours worked, your own business, and the things that you like. And that just programmed my mind to always be focused on being an entrepreneur.
Interest. Yeah. Input gets your output. I mean, that's what I take away from that. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty rad. Yeah. I mean, I think it was, I don't know that it was like this master plan. I think it was honestly just my mom being her. And, we were a middle-class family. My stepdad had a good business. And my dad was always just a hustler. And, I would say he was middle, lower class, but like he lived however he wanted to live, and he would, he was fine. And so I think it was just kind of a result, not necessarily a plan. It sounds like your dad had a little bit more thought out idea to inspire you in mine. I think it was kind of a default, but in the end, still similar mindset. Right?
Same thing, right? However, like point B is point B, however you get there. So then like, were you, well, I'm sure you took that into when you started working and detailing trucks and making some, back then that was good money, like really good money. $500 a truck, that was good money. That's a big dealership.
18 years old?
Yeah. You and I are the same age. I mean, that's 2000. It's like 2000.
Yeah. It was 1998 for me. And, I had no overhead. It was me and my car with a buffer, some aluminum polish, and wax, like that was it.
That's awesome. So when you started, go back to like that turning point or that defining moment when you said, okay, obviously you already knew that cars and power and I mean, what you do is literally teetering on the edge of control at all times. And the way I refer to you is a master of control, because I watch your videos, I watch your pedal movements, and dude, it's like an art form. It's insane. So how did you know that you wanted that? And then how did you start? Like, what was that popping point where you bought the first car? I think I've seen your first car, right? That's the one that was in your garage. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you just bought that?
Yeah, that was my first race car. It wasn't my first car that got me into it, but yeah, that was my first race car that I built. And so just a funny story. So my dad was a wholesaler. It was all connects. So my dad was a wholesaler. And because I got into what I do really on accident, it's just been like a really funny natural progression. My dad was a wholesaler, and he would buy cars for my friends. And so this particular friend bought a Nissan 240SX.
Okay.
And I had to drive it home from the auction lot because it was on my dad's tag. And anyway. So when we left that dealer lot, I like kicked the clutch and did like a little power slide. And I was like, it was a little 2.4 liter 4-cylinder, Nissan 240SX. And so a couple of days later, he tried to do that leaving our community college when I was still in community college, and spun it and ran right into a tree. Oh, no. And so this car that he bought for $6,500, which was a ton of money to me in 2008. Sorry, 1998.
I was going to say, 1998.
Yeah, 1998. And it was totaled. And he had no mechanical abilities. So anyway, I bought it from the insurance company for $1,000.
Nice.
And it sat in front of my parents' house in pieces while I could afford to put it together. And as I was rebuilding that car and looking up parts and how to hook it up and things, I came across this sport of drifting. And so once I got that car together, I used to go to industrial parks and play around and do donuts and this and that. And eventually bought like a little better car and did an engine swap, the SR20 engine swap, which is a Sylvia motor from Japan, which for any car nerds watching, what I'm talking about. Yep. And like, that was like amazing. I had this 225 horsepower turbocharged 2-liter. And, I would go to drag strip and might or might not have engaged in some street stuff back in the day. And through that process, finding drifting, this was like, now we're fast forwarded 2001, 2002.
Sure.
At the time I had a car that I'd started to build and it was really cool. And drifting started coming to the US, and there was organized events happening and popping up all over the US. And so I started going to some events in New Jersey. It was called Drift Out Wednesday. It was every last Wednesday night of the month. So I would leave, I would go to this event and, the first couple of times I went there, like I had realized like the skateboarding, the motocross, all this and all the playing around industrial parks, everybody was kind of like, yo, who's this dude? Cause I was ripping and like, I didn't know, but I was ripping. And I really fell in love with like the camaraderie and the lifestyle. And it was just like skateboarding with cars,
Sure.
You'd go out, you do a run, come in, all your boys, you'd be like, that was sick. You'd give each other props. And I just fell in love with it. It was cars. It was showing style and personality from behind the wheel. It was creative. All the things that I am and I love is just me. And so I started to make a name for myself on the East Coast. 2003-ish, won a couple competitions on the East Coast. I was winning and doing really well at the Drift Out Wednesday little mini competitions they had. And I got invited out to this event in California. And here I am, Maryland boy. Like I'm in Ocean City in Florida. You know what I mean? I got invited out to California where all this was happening. And, now I'm working at the IT gig. IT manager. I was making good money, 22, 23 years old, making 70, 80 grand a year with nice bonuses. And so I got invited out to California, and I remember this vividly. I maxed my credit card out. The trip cost me like 8 to 10 grand. Shipping my car, I sent to get a proper differential put in it. It's the first time I bought new tires ever, because up until then I was dumpster diving. But I got invited to this event to do a demo or an exhibition with all these Japanese drivers that like I had been like inspired by, and now I'm going to get to drive with them. And so, I did that, but I didn't just show up to drive. I felt like this could be my opportunity. I'm in California, this is where everything happens. And so I made a little deck and a proposal and went around to all these vendors, had a good showing at the exhibition and went around, introduced myself to all the people in the industry. And following that event, the group from my first team, Team Falcon, had called me. And, their call was like, hey, we want you on our team. What do you think about painting your car our colors? And I was like, what? Like this was putting me on the team with like, these guys that like brought drifting to the US and I painted my car the colors, and my deal was getting 10 tires an event. This was the first Formula D event. So this was 2004 now. I had, built this car. Once I got that call, they had some sponsors they hooked me up with, suspension sponsors, wheel sponsors, and I'm, building my car in my garage. And I built my first Formula D car in my garage. I went to my first event in Road Atlanta in 2004, and I trailered it, open car trailer on the back of my truck. I took off work early, got to the event, finished third, and it was literally the first time I pulled a handbrake at Road Atlanta.
Really?
I was like, it was first time I ever pulled a handbrake. I was always just power overing or weight transferring, and so this was early days of American drifting. And
I gotta go back for a second. I gotta go back to something. So before you get too far into the story, how did you, like, that's what I wanted to ask. How did you know what to do? How did you have that level of skill? I mean, you had to have been practicing. You had to have harnessed that focus and determination in some capacity to be. Nobody's natural at anything. It's a natural gift to want it badly enough, and then you hone the skill, right? How did you hone that skill?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally that's it. But like I said, this was just a natural progression for me. Like, so being in cars, so the go-kart,
right,
and then being in cars with my dad and just being someone that's aware. And then all the intramural sports that I did taught me the hand-eye coordination.
Okay.
Then the skateboarding and BMX and motocross taught me the weight transfer and managing weight, because driving cars is only managing weight.
Yeah.
And so I really, really chalk it up to motocross. Like, that is the absolute ultimate. Anybody that wants to do anything with vehicles, motocross is the trick. Number one, there's consequences if you crash.
Yeah.
Number two, if your body and you're not managing the weight and getting on throttle and doing the right things, you know it because you're off the bike.
Yeah.
So that for me was really it. So when I got in a car and started doing the things, donuts and power sliding and, ultimately drifting, it was just very natural for me. Like, I was comfortable at speed. I knew I had to look where I wanted to go. So all these things just flowed. Like I never tried. Like I was never like, I need to learn drifting. It was just, I could do it.
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons why I was so good so early, not being arrogant, but why I was at the higher level so early was because I was able to be on that first wave. And, you know, they say timing is everything. And, you know, had I have been 3 to 4 to 5 years later, I would have been like everybody else that's trying to break into this sport now, which is like breaking into the major leagues. There's so many people doing it. And, you know, I made a name for myself quickly because of my talent, because of what I was doing behind the wheel. And I capitalized on that. You know, I just kept going to events and doing what I could do and took a business approach to it very early on versus a lot of people that I was driving with that haven't been able to have the career, who took the hobby. I'm just having fun. I'm a little laxy-daisy, you know, doing it. Yeah. So that's what really took me further quicker.
All right, so talk about that. That's what I was looking for. Like there's something that separates you. Dude, you're not a guy that just drifts on the weekend for fun. You're a professional at the highest level at the top of the game. Talk about that mode, because somebody's listening to this right now who has a job and has a side hustle or a hobby that they'd love to shift that. Like, what was it about your mindset and the business model that you ran? Like, and I also want you to talk about the sheets that you made and like would you say a business plan that you took around to all the sponsors?
A proposal. So I go back. I mean, first of all, you know, I'll tell everybody, like, running your own business and being an entrepreneur is not for everybody. No. Like, if you value your time and you like your box schedule, like, do that.
Yeah.
Because for me, though, there's always been something inside of me, like watching my dad hustle. Like, I've always just have an entrepreneur mindset. Like, I'm always seeing things and how to do them better and how to leverage it better. And whether it's my business, someone else's business, I don't know why, it just is there. And I was wired that way. So constantly growing up, you know, whether it's being the paper boy and trying to figure out how to do that efficient, or hiring a friend, or the detailing business, you know, and then getting into IT. Like, yes, I was an IT professional, but through that, I was the one being marketed to. They wanted me to buy their software. They wanted me to hire them. Same with sales. So like all of these things kind of got ingrained to me, and being someone I think the key is being aware and not being so face value, and like not being on the phone and being like, oh, this guy's trying to sell me something. Like, hear him. I would understand his tactic. I would be more in his brain than I am focusing on him at face level. And like those things just kind of stuck with me. So when it became time for me to be the marketer or the salesman, it was just a natural thing for me because, you know, I didn't go to school for any of this. I just learned it. And to me, it's like common sense. It's like, if I want you to give me money, what am I giving you?
Sure.
And so and so like I reverse engineer that every way. I mean, like my thing is like, I don't even go to people. So I'll come to that in a second, how I approach it now. But so through that, you know, it was just trial and error. But the one thing that I think is most important that a lot of people don't do is understand what your customer needs instead of understanding what you want from them.
Yes.
And trying to get that first. Yeah. You always need to find out what their goals are and be realistic with whether you can help them with that goal or you can't. And be honest with yourself. And the number one reason for me, and the one thing I'm jumping ahead a bit, but the reason why I have the long-term deals and I've been working with people for so long and year after year, even through pandemics, you know, I still am generating the revenue through what I do, is because I don't do stuff that I don't believe in, and I don't do stuff that I know I can't deliver to that person, because that's just a recipe for short-term success. And I've always been like that. And, you know, that just goes from being a people person and being an honest person with good morals, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's really, and again, thank you for this. I always love doing these types of conversations because it makes you think back on how to do these things and how to help other people figure it out. Because for me, again, like my path has been my route. It hasn't been like this structured, hey, you're going to do this, then do that. Like, I'm not a built and engineered race car driver like a lot of the pro athletes that you see. Like, a lot of them are like, this was structured and like through their process. Like, for me, it's just a natural progression of who I am. And it's also why I think I love it so much, because it's just flowed to that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you had a focus and really didn't it's almost like blinders in a positive sense, where you just didn't let all the fluff, the noise, the shit from everybody else that everybody else was thinking. Like, even when those guys were kind of just, it was their hobby and they were just doing it on the weekends. And even though they might have had a high skill, they weren't thinking of how do I take this to the next level? How can these sponsors want people like me, like that guy, but how can I make myself attractive so that I can give them what they want and in turn get what I want? That's a mentality of a great salesperson or an enroller. Like, I call it enrollment. You're enrolling somebody in a possibility, and they're doing the same thing to you. And if you sell them, like if you walked around to all those sponsors and sold them on you, they'd be like, bro, you're one of the rest of these guys. Did you have a mentor or anybody besides your dad, like within drifting? Did you have a mentor at any point that somebody said, like, Vaughn, you got a talent, man, stay focused right here and just follow a couple pieces of advice?
Well, no, I know. I would say early on, it was really trial and error. I read some sports marketing books and things, but they did not resonate. Like, they were for like bigger business. The interesting thing about drifting is it wasn't NASCAR. NASCAR is a process. It's like, hey, I want $100 million and this is what you get, and there's the TV time and this and that. Drifting was just scrapping. And so I had to kind of develop a value proposition and a way to get value. And, I built something from nothing. I mean, the sport was nothing. People didn't think they wanted drifting. Yeah. I had to talk them into it. And, so for me, to your point of other people just doing it as a hobby, like, I saw an opportunity.
Sure.
And I saw import drag racing and other motorsports kind of like fading away. And I saw drifting, like, it is so exciting. Like, if you have a heart and a brain, like, you can't keep your eyes off of this sport. And I was like, this is it. And so, but me going in sponsorship, I like to say I had this big 10-year plan, but it was initially like, yo, I want to do this. I love it. I believe in myself. But there's no way I can keep afforded doing it myself. Right. Even though I was making great money, I didn't want to blow all my money on it, And so I always had a business agenda on the back end of it, because I was spending so much time on it, and it was like I wasn't gonna be able to keep it up forever. So, So for me, that just kind of made it what it was, and made me focus on curating business out of this hobby while I was doing it to help me be able to continue doing it. And so, going back to, the starting something from nothing, I think this is pretty key. Like, so my strategy in the beginning, like, drifting wasn't on TV. It was in magazines. So back then, all these sponsors were paying like $5,000 to $10,000 per ad page of, magazines, Import Tuners, Super Street, all the magazines. Yep. And so I couldn't guarantee TV time. All I had was the audience at events. There wasn't social media, and then magazines. So the sponsors were spending money to get ad placement through organic coverage in magazines and or TV and other media. So what I did, and I thought of, I don't know how or why, but I thought of this myself. I'm like, all right, well, here's the deal. I'm going to get these contracts, and I'm going to get all of these sponsors. I'm going to take little contracts from the big guys, but I'm going to get them to commit to using me as their guy in their ads. And then I'm going to get other sponsors to help every time they're in an ad to pay and give revenue. And so that's how I developed I had marketing partners. And that's how I developed my business to start. So every time my car was in an ad, these sponsors that were seen would pay X dollars.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And then then as drifting started to grow, then I started getting, we were on TV. Then I started getting some contracts. But I mean, from 2002 to 2007, my life was drive 45 miles from Glen Burnie, Maryland to Arlington, Virginia, work, go home, work on my car. When there was Formula D, I would leave early on a Wednesday or Thursday, either fly or drive to the event. My dad would drive the car to the event after the first year. And then, yes, I did that for a few years. Come home on a red eye on Sunday, go to work Monday. And then it just got to be where it was like I was half foot in, half foot out, superstar on the weekends, IT professional nerd during the week. And I was like, I got to the point where I'm like, look, I need to chase my passion. Sure. And this is that breaking point that you're talking about for the people that are wanting to get out of their job. They have a passion. And my reality was, okay, if I quit my job, my cushy job, I still am always going to have my brain. I can always get another IT job.
Yeah. This
opportunity right now, if I don't do this, I'm never going to know. I'm going to kick myself in the ass the rest of my life. And if I don't do it, it could be the worst thing I ever did.
Yeah.
So I quit my IT job and went all in. And, at that time, I think I probably had like $40,000 worth of contracts. So walked away from a $100,000 plus a year job for $40,000 a year contracts, but for what I loved.
Sure.
And I was willing to make the lifestyle changes and not, save the money and this and that to try it out. And the one thing I always tell everybody, and one thing I did really good, was I kept my passion in check with my reality. And that's the one thing that people always ask me, and I always say, just make sure you keep your reality in check. Because it's very easy to chase your passion like a drug and give up everything for it. And next thing you know, you have nothing.
Right.
And so for me, that was just an absolute key that I tell everyone that I did that well. Like I stuck in there with the IT job until I felt that I was at a place that I had curated the foundation. So meaning if you're somebody that's doing something you don't love, that is kind of your means to an end, acknowledge that and put the plan together to where you're going to be comfortable enough with your passion, right? Maybe that is $20,000 a year selling your best art that you've made. And once you get $20,000 a year, you can live. Well, quit your job and chase the art. Once you can pay your bills with your art and see if it goes further, whatever it may be. And so that for me was a huge key because I've watched tons of friends lose everything. Chasing drifting specifically. And, obviously I've now used drifting to evolve into many other things, but this was my springboard. And, the relationships I've built, the image and, the image of myself and, it is also been a huge value, right? Everything is, when they say it's a small world and don't burn bridges, that's one thing that I have never done and has been a huge, huge key to the success.
I love that. For anybody that doesn't know what drifting is, first of all, actually, let me go back for a second. You said you took a business approach. Your buddy Greg Biffle, we had him on the show. We actually launched the episode last week, and Greg said the same thing. The guys that have that raw talent, that come in and think that they can just glide on the raw talent, they're the first ones out. And when you think about the business mindset and you understand what the sponsors want and that you're not invincible, and there's somebody else who can cultivate talent just as high as yours because you're now a model, maybe unless you're like Michael Jordan or something who's kind of like the only untouchable athlete out there perhaps. But like he said, the guys that run it like a business and are in alignment with their sponsors, they go far. The guys that just get in a car and drive and are disconnected from the business side, they don't go as far. And that's probably who you're talking about. So then like what happened with, when did big sponsors like Monster and Ford, like when did that really happen? Were you always driving a Mustang, by the way?
Yeah, no. So, I started out in the 240 SX and in 2005, Ford debuted the Mustang, that new Mustang, and everyone probably remembers the '05 Mustang. It was kind of the modern throwback, and it was sick. And I was like, yo, that's sick. I was never a Mustang guy, but that's rad, and it would be amazing to bring some American muscle into drift. So my team and I at the time went and bought a car for $5,000 over sticker because they were impossible to get. And then I fell in love with the Mustang in 2005. And there was no Ford, there was no Monster. But as soon as that happened, I started beating on Ford's door like, yo, I'm right here driving a Mustang in this cool sport, and you need to be here. And for 2 years, I pounded on the door. They're probably sick of my emails. And then eventually in 2007, I got hooked up with Ford, and I got a little parts budget and some body parts and stuff like that. And then 2010 is when I got my first job. Got my first deal with Ford. I had also been working on Monster from about 2007, 2008. And then finally in 2010, I did a deal with Monster. And that's also the same year I won my Formula Drift Championship. I won a couple world championships before that, but I won my Formula Drift Championship, which was to that point the greatest thing one of the biggest things I had done. One thing I would like to step back, you asked if I ever had a mentor. And there wasn't really any mentors. There's a lot of people growing up that like I had a lot of respect for, but Ken Block is a good friend of mine. And I wouldn't say that he was a mentor, but the things that he was doing inspired me probably starting in 2008, 2009. So I started working with him, and he owned DC at the time, and this was before he was just starting to do rally. In fact, maybe it was 2006, 7 is when it was. 2007 when it was, and he and I collaborated on some shoes, and he was doing some rally racing, and this was before Gymkhana, but like Ken started DC, he's a smart dude. Yeah. And, so I was grateful to have a friend in him. And like, I didn't, rack his brain, but, until more recent, as things got bigger, I do have him to confide in and speak to about some things and how he approaches things and how he has done things in the past. But, he was definitely somebody that I'd say is influential and someone that I am grateful to have on the side. He's not necessarily someone that's taken me under wing as a mentor, but he's always been there for me, and I've been there for him as well with other things that we help each other with things. So a really cool relationship there. So where were we going after that? Sorry, I stepped back there, and then we went to Greg Goodfull, and so the driver. So yes, in motorsport, if you're just a driver, back in the day, this was fine.
Right.
You were a good driver. You were winning. You were going to get money. Things were going to happen. Now the thing is, there's so many media outlets, right? It used to be motorsport on TV was super valuable. Well, guess what? People don't watch TV anymore. You know what I mean? Like, so there's all these other ways that people are getting attention. And so now you have to be a marketing team first versus a racer. Yeah. And that mindset does not gel. You very much meet someone and very quickly you're like, oh, they're a racer, or nope, they're a businessman. Yeah. And, fortunately my path has turned me into a businessman first. And I acknowledge being behind the wheel of badass cars is my reward for the business and providing value for my partners. So, you can't put the cart before the horse anymore. Like it's not possible unless you're still in some of these, older, more, I don't want to say older, but more traditional motorsports that people are still cutting big checks for. But that's running out. And, that's a factual statement. All you have to do is watch what's going on in big motorsports and look in the stands. I got a lot of love and a lot of friends in those motorsports, and my partners are in them, and they are still finding value, but they're really starting to have to shift their mindset and how they're doing things and leveraging it, because it doesn't just come from one thing anymore. And so That's another lesson. I think obviously this podcast about learning things is like not all things stay the same. So you have to constantly evolve. I mean, you know this from the real estate game. I mean, it was a whole different world, you know, it was just open houses and signs out front and the mailers, and now targeted marketing on social, proper videos, engaging content to sell a house.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you have to evolve or you're going to be left behind.
But dude, you say that so well. And I preach this to all the people that I coach, whether it's in real estate or other businesses. You know, in our coaching business, we've got hundreds of clients that they ask me about marketing, and I'll say to them, look, you gotta just be you and authentic on video. You can't become a character or this completely different person. Yeah, we might amp up the energy a little bit. We're on camera and like give people like a little bit more, but it's still authentically us. And I tell realtors all the time, if you are afraid to get on video, just understand that technology moves so fast today that while you're waiting to get on video or while you're waiting for your mind to change or something like that to happen, technology will surpass you and you'll become someone with a key to open a door. And that is replaceable big time. You've got to stay out in front and you've got to be marketing, because real estate agents have this disconnection. I think probably the United States is probably specific, but around the world, they are marketers who happen to sell real estate. And that's just what you're talking about, which is the business first and then the kind of the profession or the whatever it is, what you're doing. Like you have to be an understanding of a marketing mindset and what people are looking for. You can't just put the house on the market and hope that it sells. It just doesn't work that way. And plus you owe your clients a lot more than that. So I love that mentality of like, if you don't evolve with the times, because they are changing with or without you, they don't ask your permission, you're going to get left behind. Don't do that. Like, be aware. Don't be afraid. Just take a chance on yourself like you did, like I've done, and move toward that goal. That's it. Nice and easy. Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and, like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's hard to, a lot of people maybe aren't this deep, but like, if you're not enjoying what you do, it's not what you're supposed to be doing. And like, I enjoyed IT, but that's one thing for people. Like if you're not enjoying I enjoyed IT, but I enjoyed drifting more. Right. So to me, because I was enjoying that more, to me, it meant that that was my passion and what I was meant to do. And to the core, it's not driving. Like now later in life, like I've realized that my purpose is putting smiles on faces and inspiring people. And, that's my true purpose. But that purpose was found inside of my passion. And I, at face value, you would think it's racing or whatever, but no, it's being there, being with people, performing, inspiring people, and doing stuff that puts smiles on people's faces. And so that's the good test, the self-litmus test of, am I doing and serving my purpose? Do I wake up in the morning excited to do what I'm doing?
Yeah.
No? Okay. What do you wake up excited to do? Try to do that. Yeah. Because that is what is going to fulfill you in this short life.
That's insane, man. So for the audience listening, I listen, there's a lot of gold here. Let me just back off this for a second. I want to talk to you about the evolvement of your skills. Let me brag on you for a second. For all of you listening, when you get done listening to this podcast, you got to check out a few things of Vaughn's. But one is his Facebook page, which is just Vaughn Gittin Jr., right? Yeah.
It's facebook.com/official Vaughn Gittin Jr. And then Instagram is just Vaughn Gittin Jr.
Okay. So official Vaughn Gittin Jr., Gittin. Like, I know Vaughn, and when I watch, dude, I was telling you before we started this interview, when I watch these videos of your footwork, it's like dancing on those freaking pedals. Like, I don't even believe that you're doing anything, but the camera view outside of the car, you're going 120 miles an hour toward a turn. All of a sudden, you just pivot that freaking car at a 45-degree angle, and your ass is rolling through the turn. Your head's not swiveling. You're just focused on where you're going. Your feet are all over the place, and you're just the focus and the attention, like how the hell did you get that skill level? Is it just an evolvement? Like you just tried that e-brake and tried this and tried the double, like heel towing and like what the hell?
Yeah, it's just practice. I mean, it's like, how do you hit a baseball?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you catch a baseball? You know what you're looking for. You know what tool does what. And, early on, I certainly wasn't as smooth as I am now. I mean, one thing that I really did is, so as I got into professional, I started realizing that my brain was getting in my way, right? So the mental game for me. So like the physical skill, that's one thing. Like that's just practice and motion and, reaction training and being someone, again, skateboarding, BMX, motocross, like I never stopped. My whole life I've been doing hand-eye coordination related things. But once I got to professional level, like I really started honing these skills and taking it serious. And, I've worked with some really good trainers on a physical level. But the biggest trick in my arsenal has been my mental game.
Okay.
And, drifting as a sport, NASCAR and other racing, you make a mistake on a turn, you got 499 of them left to fix it.
Right.
Drifting, or like X Games and action sports, you have to be the best you've ever been right now. And you have to turn it on and turn it off and turn it on and turn it off and turn it on, turn it off. So for me, early on, like I would go out and I'd kill it in practice. But then when the pressure was on, now I got these big sponsors, it's my job, my career, all this pressure.
Yeah.
I would make mistakes. And when it counted in qualifying and competition, I was just getting in my own way. And I'm like, I got the physical skill because I do it in practice all day. There's a video, look at me killing it. Why couldn't I do that then?
Yeah.
So I hired a sports psychologist by the name of Ross Bentley. He also writes some books called Speed Secrets. And this stuff's relevant to anything that you're doing, but specifically sport. And just taught me some exercises, breathing exercises, which now I do yoga and some meditation stuff. But 2008, I was struggling. This was 12 years ago, and I've been a student of my brain since then. Read some great books, Mind Gym. What is it? The Art of Archery is another one. Is another good one. Breathing techniques for archers. But I've done a lot of things to hone my skill and my craft that allows me to be, get out of my car, be talking to fans, handshaking, talking to sponsors, doing video stuff, and then get back in my car and be one of the best dudes in the world. You know what I mean? Like that is the biggest challenge for my sport specifically. So that's what I've honed the most. My physical skill is just a result of being in the car, practice, and having the opportunity to drive as much as I can. Video games and sims are really good these days. So always stand behind the wheel and always thinking about it. Visualization is another key. And I believe in visualization for every part of my life. Yeah. Seeing it, before, I'm sitting in my new home right now. Before that, I saw myself and my family in this and where we were going to be. And, it might be getting a little bit deep for some people, but manifestation and visualization is real. The law of attraction is real. Yep. What you put out, you get. And, so for me, that works in that. But the fact when it comes to driving and physical things is that your brain doesn't know that it's in a car or it's not. You lose the G-forces, you lose those sensors. But I can, to this day, I can sit in a car and drive a track and be tenths of a second off when I'm in the car. And I just slow down, I breathe, I get to that place in the zone, and I visualize and do laps. So before I get to a track, I've already done 100 laps. Guess what? I'm 100 laps ahead of everybody else that's not doing that. And so, that's been a, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have told you this stuff, but I'm at the point in my life and career where I've now realized that what you put out, you get back. But more so, I'm more passionate about helping people achieve their goals, because when I look back on this stuff, like, it looks hard and it feels hard to a lot of people, but it's not. You just have to flow and believe and do it. And so I love sharing those messages, and
it's perfect, man.
So yeah, that was kind of been my tricks and how I curated my skill.
Dude, I'm so glad you got into that because it's something that we talked about, I don't know, a couple months ago when I was at your house and we started getting into visualization and it's something that I do every day. I do it with my daughter. So every morning my daughter and I get up and we brush our teeth, we hydrate our bodies, and we say our affirmations in the mirror. And then on Sundays, we like behind this black curtain is a huge whiteboard, and below that is my daughter's little vision board for her week. And hers is like, have fun, be positive, be nice, be kind, hang out with my brother, things like that. But I'm programming her mind to visualize what's ahead. Same thing like you're talking about, because I learned that about 10 years ago in business. And in everything that I do, I'm writing out what I see, what's going to happen, because now I know that walking into that office and having that conversation has already happened in my mind. It's already rehearsed. So just like you said, you've already driven that track 100 times. So for anybody that's listening who thinks visualization and the law of attraction is bullshit, you are lying to yourself. You're talking to one of the world's best like you're listening to one of the world's best right now at a sport, whether you know it or not. It is a very high level, very technical sport. You are balancing a car and G-forces and gravity. And I don't even know how to describe drifting. It's like I can describe it, but you'll probably hit me for it. Like there's
yeah, no, I mean, go ahead.
No, I was good. There's so much there. And I'm so glad you brought that up, man. A mindset, visualization, and understanding where you're headed so that when you are walking that path, you've already seen the stuff already. You already know it's what you expect. I love it.
Look, I never had any idea until I hired Ross and learned these things and started doing my own study into my brain and reading books. And, it works. I mean, I've done it in drifting. I've done it in business, and I've done it now. I race off road in Ultra 4, and it works every bit of the way. And but you have to believe it wholly.
Dude, what's
the way that it works is you can't be half stepping it.
No. What's it like? So actually, I want to go back for a second. You were talking about something that brought up ego for me. When you jump out of that car and you're shaking hands and you're entertaining sponsors and you're getting on video and people are talking to you and giving you accolade after accolade, how do you manage that ego and that like all these people want me and I'm the best and I'm great and I'm up here, and like how does that not blow your head up? Forget about driving. I'm just talking about coming home. Yeah. Like how is the Vaughn at home different than the Vaughn that jumps in the car, or are they different?
Yeah. Man, that's tough because I do get complimented a lot. Like people expect me to be this arrogant jerk off, sure. And like I'm so mad at other celebrities or I say celebrities, but for like bringing that perspective of being arrogant and like not approachable. And like for me, I'm just me. Like I'm the same dude that used to cut your lawn for $25. You know what I mean? Like it's just who I am. And like I've always stayed true to that. And I think it's just a reflection of how I was raised and the kind of people that I surround myself with that, I'm so grateful, and like I acknowledge why I'm able to do the things that I can do. So I always have, even though if I don't have time, I have time. I'll figure it out for you. I'll stay till the end of the event and sign an autograph line till whenever, unless I absolutely have to go somewhere for something, I give back the best that I can, and I don't know. All I know is how to be me. It's funny. Like I was on an interview today about a potential TV show opportunity. And like, that's exactly what I told him. Like, look, I'm not a script reader. I'm not an actor, I'm just me. And, obviously you like me because you've called me to do this, but I'm just letting you know, like, there's no line. This isn't happening. Yes, I'll have some fun. I have a character that I do for some funny things every now and then. And that's just like fun to me, but that's not fun. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I just be me. And that's the one thing I'm grateful for with my brain is that I'm able to be me. And after all, when I come home from events, man, I'm this on cloud nine, but still exhausted.
Yeah.
But, I'm just grateful that I can come home and just be a normal dude. And I think, honestly, a lot of people are that. But a lot of them don't show it because maybe they have management or other people controlling them or what they do. And I've never given myself away to that. I've always been involved in everything I do, and all of my business and everything still has me. And so it stayed very true to who I am, which has kept me there, I think, now that I think about that. Yeah.
So I got a couple more things. One is you take care of your brain, the vision, the forward progression, and the evolvement of you. So how do you take care of your body? Are you somebody that, obviously I know the answer to this, but I want you to answer this for the audience. Are you somebody that just goes crazy, or do you take care of that body?
Yeah, I used to. From 2000, for a long time, it was specifically like 04 to 08, 09, 2010. Maybe even longer. It was rock stars or race cars. We were traveling, driving race cars, partying every night. It was, what we did.
What you did.
But very quickly, after, some simple blood tests, high liver enzymes, high cholesterol, those things were scary to me. And so I started looking into this stuff and started going down a natural holistic approach of health versus our standard health systems, sick care. And very quickly made a big shift. And a lot of that is related to my wife and being inspired by her. But you can be inspired all you want. You have to believe and do it. And so for me now, I eat a very heavy plant-based diet. I like to say that I'm working out as much as I should, but I still have that struggle of getting away from behind the computer, of doing the work that I'm so passionate about doing, which affords me the opportunities that I have. I eat very healthy, healthier than I ever thought in my life. I just told you I'm mainly plant-based. Like, I still eat some meat, but I was a straight carnivore, like bacon and eggs every morning, steak and burgers. There would be no greens on my plate, and my body and some symptoms I was having was starting to be a result of that. And I was on a bad path, and I didn't know any better, because the education that we get specifically here in America about food and health is shit.
Junk.
And, now, I take really good care of myself. I'm not perfect, and you can't be perfect. I think that's the most important thing to know. But I started with little shifts, and man, started feeling amazing. And, I went from someone that partied every weekend to I don't even drink really anymore, right. And, not because I don't like beer, not because I just don't like, I'm so up here and everything is firing on all cylinders that I notice when I have a beer or two beers or three beers. But before I didn't even know. And I definitely take care of myself. Especially now having a son, I want to be there for him, and I want to be, I'm turning 40 this year. And, to me, 50 is the new 40, and 60 is the new 45. Like, that's how I'm living.
Sure.
And so, that's not just going to happen. I've seen it. My father passed away at 58 years old, and he didn't take good care of himself. He lived fast, he died fun, and did it his way. And I respect that. But I learned from that, and that's not what I want to do. I've done it all. I've seen it all. There's not much more. And now this new path for me is new and exciting. And it's amazing the places you can get with that. And so, I respect everybody's path and what they're doing. And, I love hanging out with my friends, and, I just, party in different ways,
Sure.
and it doesn't have alcohol and But, sometimes, I will splurge and eat some crappy food, and but it's instead of every day of the week, it might be once every couple weeks or once a week, and that's my, bad food is now is my alcohol,
Right.
And so you just find these little trade-offs because it was challenging for me. I mean, I remember my naturopath when we were, I was doing all this stuff and trying to get my cholesterol down and, realized that, it was related to how much meat I was eating. She's like, you need to go on a plant-based diet. And I looked her in the eye and I was like, I'm a meat eater. I'm not going on a plant-based diet. And for those of you that don't know, plant-based does not mean vegetarian. It just means more plant than anything else.
Plant protein.
Yep. And so it's been working very well for me. And the other thing too, I've learned through this is that there's not one recipe for everybody.
No.
All these fad diets and this and that, you'll lose weight, but who knows what else it's doing to you, because we all have a system that requires certain things based on genes, based on upbringing, based on allergies we've given ourselves through our choices. Like, it's crazy. It's a crazy, crazy hole.
Hell yeah.
But I'm grateful that I went down the path, and it's been a lot of work.
Huge mindset shift.
A lot of work. What's that?
It's a huge mindset shift. I mean, you and I eat very similar. I'm all plant-based. I'll do a little bit of chicken, a little bit of fish every once in a while. But in 2004, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and they said, you got to cut all these things out of your diet. I thought, well, how the hell do you do that? And it's just about awareness and an education that's different from the kind of the bullshit that we got in school, which is, I mean, frankly, it's literally made by unhealthy people. So we don't follow that. The food pyramid's all BS. And I just started to research on my own.
It's also made by about money. It's also based on money.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
System that feeds each other. But
yeah.
That's just opinion. I'm not here to
Your
argue
opinion.
that stuff.
My opinion too, man. But no, that's awesome. I encourage everybody, if you haven't done it, if you really want to understand your level of discipline, go 30 days. Just try 30 days. Fuck, try 7 days and cut all the shit that you think is bad out of your diet. And if you don't know it's bad, go find a professional that you trust that helps your body, not like another 35, 40-year-old. Like, just go to your body and get that done. I mean, I encourage everybody. I mean, dude, the energy that I have, that you have, like, it's like a blessing, and I wouldn't trade it. And people are like, what are you doing? Are you just eating quinoa and an avocado? I'm like, yeah. You don't want Royal Farms chicken? I'm like, awesome. Damn, do I want Royal Farms chicken right now? But I
yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and and it's not that you can't. Like, I'll have a piece of that every now and then. It's not that you can't. It's just it's that balance once you learn it. And speaking of 30 days, I will say the whole 30 is what changed mine and Abby's life. We met somebody. I was out with Monster, and we were out, partying after an event in New York after a bullfighting event, and we went and had some dinner, and we were just talking about health and stuff, and she talked about the whole 30 and recommended to Abby, and it changed our life. And in fact, a couple of years ago, I sent the whole 30 to my entire team.
Nice.
Because it was that life-changing for us. And, that's one of those things that, like I just said, there's not a recipe for everyone. The whole 30 is for everybody, and that's the start of what enables you to understand and start honing things in for yourself. So that was huge for us.
Yeah, it's a retool of the habits. That's it. You just have to change your habits and your mindset around it. So, all right.
It's amazing, too, because it's amazing, too. I want to explain this one last thing is, like, sure. People, to your point, you're eating avocado and quinoa. Like, there's no flavor to that. Well, when you make this shift, your taste buds change.
Illuminate.
Like, the things that you used to love, like if you were someone, the things that you used to love, you start tasting the things in it that aren't real.
Yeah.
Or you start having it has a different texture. It just doesn't work for you anymore because there's been this shift. And it's really incredible. There's a place and time for things.
Of course.
But I think overall, again, you don't have to be perfect, but overall, finding a balance that works well for you and makes you feel good, like, that's the number one thing to go for.
Yeah. All right, let's shift gears for a second. I want to be respectful of your time. Dude, let's talk about some fun, man. Your company,
Okay.
RTR, is some of the most badass vehicles I've ever seen and driven in. And Jason or you have not let me drive one yet, so I can't say I've driven them. And that will happen very soon. But dude, let's talk about RTR, how you started that, what the company's about, and then let's talk about Fun Haver as well. And then any races or any promotions or anything you got coming up. Let's make sure we tell our audience about that.
Sure. Yeah, RTR I think is interesting because it really feeds into, for those entrepreneurs here, this is kind of the evolution of like my mindset and my approach. And, so when I got into the Mustang world, 2005, I started looking to personalize my car. And I wanted to look sick. I mean, like part of drifting, like I mentioned, was showing your style and personality. And
Sure.
well, when I got into the Mustang, everything that I found, to hook it up, the body kits, the hoods, like everything was so old school mindset. And I'm like, nothing speaks to me. And when I say me, I'm speaking for my generation. Like the guys that are like-minded like me are never going to buy this because they can't hook it up to be them.
Right.
And part of this car culture and having a car and being into this world like I am and you are as someone that loves cars, you want to make your car you. And so, in 2005 that happened and continued on. And I didn't know the first thing about how to do anything about it. But long story short, 2008, 2009, I just came up with this concept. I'm like, if no one's going to do cool shit, I'm doing it. Like plain and simple. And I was like, well, how do I do that? And I just figured it out. I partnered up with somebody that does product development. And I am a creative and I know what I like. And so I teamed up with a designer that I know and got some stuff out of my head on paper. And here 2010, we debuted the first Ford Mustang, or 2009, debuted the first Ford Mustang RTR. And, RTR stands for Ready to Rock. And for me, Ready to Rock is something I said since I'm a teenager, and it just kind of is a lifestyle mindset of like, I'm ready for anything. Like anything that comes at me, I'm going to approach it and I'm going to handle it. And so we've brought that into our vehicles. And so, we debuted the first RTR in 2010, a very modern, aggressive take on Mustangs, rtrvehicles.com if you want to check them out. And for the last 10 years, we've been, over the last 10 years, we've become synonymous with names, with guys that have been around for way longer, the Roushes and the Shelbys of the world. We're very connected and work very closely with Ford. And, we've done some badass special vehicle projects, and we built Ken Block's Unicorn RTR, the Mustang RTRX, which is my personal vehicle. And most recently, the electric Ford Mustang Mach-E 1400 that we built with our partners at Ford Performance.
That's insane. It's pure insanity. That's the only car that I will not ask you if you can take me for a ride in. That thing looks insane, man.
Yeah, and so what we do is, we take a stock Mustang and we sell aftermarket parts for it. And we have, turnkey Mustangs that you can buy in different specs. And Ready to Rock translates into all of our vehicles because they're all our Mustangs. So we have Mustangs, Rangers, F-150s. We're going to have Broncos on the way. But the Mustangs are fully adjustable suspension if you get a Spec 2 or Spec 3. You can get a design package, which is just the appearance. You can get our Spec 2, which has fully adjustable suspension, and Spec 3 is 750 horsepower with a supercharger. Monster. And you can adjust it to go road racing, drifting, whatever you want, and it's ready to rock, And, it all starts for us, when we're doing our design and our mindset for our customers is when they walk out to their car in the morning, we want them to look at what they're about to get into and feel like they're ready to take on the day and they have confidence and they're ready for anything. And because to me, that's always been an important thing for me. When I get into my car, it feels like me, it's me, and I go about my day. And so that's RTR. I saw a gap in the market. I wasn't happy with what was there. Nothing spoke to me, and I saw an opportunity to do something different in a world that has been, Mustang is the most iconic sports car in the world. Sure. I believe it's a fact. We could maybe argue it, but and people, there's just such an old traditional mindset around it. And I wanted something new, but it stemmed from a passion. I wanted it to be cool.
Yeah.
It didn't start from me wanting to make money. Chasing money, I've always found to be a bad thing. And I'd started with a passion for Mustang and making Mustang cool to like-minded people like me, because it hadn't been until I tried one. And so I wanted people to want to try it. And so, so that's RTR. And then, Fun Haver is my other brand, fun-haver.com. And that is stemmed from me finding out, figuring out it probably, 6 years ago, my purpose in life, or what I believe to be my purpose, which is having fun.
Yeah.
And putting smiles on faces and finding fun and inspiring fun and people. And so being a fun haver is just what it is. Are you a fun haver? Yes or no?
I'm
if
a
you're
fun
not,
haver.
well, you might want to be. I know you are.
Yeah.
But it's just all about, being fun. And our content is just fun. Goal to put a smile on your face. The products that we sell and produce support a mindset of having fun. And of course, our merchandise and stuff is just cool, styled, for people that are fun and want to show that they're fun. We have shirts that say Born to Fun, just branded Fun Haver shirts, different logos. And it's just it's a mindset. I'll have fun doing anything, and I always do. And that's my job as a human. Because if I'm not having fun, I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting my life. And so that I realize that I'm a professional fun haver. And from that, I do drifting, I do off-road, I just have a good time with my friends. I play and whatever. And so that kind of inspired me to launch the brand Fun Haver. And it's been something that, I haven't put a ton of money towards and I haven't marketed. It's just been growing organically, same way I built RTR, and it's really been taken off. And, it's been a lot of fun. And I just love people coming up to me like, yo, I'm a fun haver. Like, this is, keep it up, and people resonate with it. You know what I mean? And it's cool. I like seeing people happy, man. And everything that I do is that agenda behind it, whether it's my partners, my fans, my family, my friends. If it's boring or it's going to be sad or it's going to hurt or negatively affect somebody, I'm out. Good times and you're smiling and you got good vibes, I'm in. So
what a great philosophy.
Yeah, man, that's what's that?
It's such a great philosophy to have. It's so simple, yet it can incorporate into everything that you do. Like those freaking electric big wheels that you have, man. Like that shit looks like so much fun that like it is. Forget the cars. That defines fun. You can't get on a big wheel with plastic wheels in the back that wants to slide around and say that you're bored. You can't. You got a smile on your face or you got no pulse. That's just it, man.
Yeah, exactly, man. And it's that easy. You could come up with some intricate name, but like, yo, Fun Haver. I have fun. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't need to be anything. We had this like marketing talk. Well, is that the brand? I'm like, yes, that's the brand. Done. Like, it's not even up for discussion. Like, it's what it is. Like, let's be real. Like, and that's what this, the world needs more of, is more real. And that's what Fun Haver is. So, everybody that's listening, or watching, check it out. And, yeah, I mean, that's it, man. That's your
story.
The fun that I have to share in a nutshell. And I'm really grateful to have the opportunity. Anyone that wants to check out what we're doing. We mentioned Instagram at Vaughn Gittin Jr., Facebook at official Vaughn Gittin Jr.
Yep.
RTR Vehicles is the RTR site for anyone looking for a badass Ford vehicle, and fun-haver.com. And other than that, you can catch me competing in Formula Drift. You can catch me at Ultra 4 Racing, which is really badass, like the ultimate off-road racing in the world. And yeah, anywhere that there's fun going on, you might end up seeing me there.
Freaking love it, man. Well, holy shit, Vaughn. Like, I thought I knew you before. And, bro, you are – if somebody, one, did not have fun for this interview today, they don't have a pulse. Two, if somebody didn't get something out of this freaking interview today, you're out of your mind. Because, dude, you dropped some really great shit today, man. And I am very grateful to have you as a friend and to have you on this show to tell everybody in our audience, which is thousands and thousands of people from all around the world, like your story, and share with them your growth, your success, the way you run your life, your philosophies, the way you hone your skills. And dude, just the all-around attitude you have toward life. I think that's literally, we could have done a whole thing just on Fun Haver, and just your purpose is to have fun and put smiles on people's faces. And just that right there is inspiring. But everything else, like, dude, I'm so grateful for you being on here, and thank you so much for taking the time, man. We've been well over an hour, so dude, this is great. This is absolutely great.
Well, thank you, my brother. I appreciate all that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, listen, for all the audience, look, Vaughn said where you can find him. We'll put all of it in the show notes. It'll be on the website. We'll mention all of his Instagram, everything, all of his social media stuff, the websites again, at menonpurposepodcast.com. I'm going to tell you right now, I wasn't always a Ford lover. Like, I grew up, my dad was a Chevy guy, so you kind of gravitate towards that. But when I saw the RTR Mustang that a buddy of mine has, before I even saw Vaughn's, a buddy of mine has an RTR Mustang that's, what is that, matte black with like neon green wheel lips and like wide body. It is one of the most badass. I didn't even think it was a Mustang when the garage opened. I was like, holy shit, what the hell is that? And he goes, that's an RTR Mustang. And I was like, what the hell is an RTR Mustang? I need one of those. So you gotta, at the very least, you gotta go check out Fun Haver, fun-haver.com, and rtrmotorsports.com. Vaughn, been a pleasure, brother.
RTRvehicles.com.
Oh, sorry, rtrvehicles.com. Yeah, dude.
Thank you, Ian, man. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work too, man. You're killing it, and I love what you're doing too, man. So keep it up, and
thanks, dude.
I'll see you soon.
Thanks, brother. And thanks, everybody, for listening. Had a blast. Go rewind this, listen to it again, get your pen and pencil out and your paper, take some notes. All right, Vaughn, thanks, brother.
All right, buddy. I'll catch you in a bit.
Thanks again for listening to the Men on Purpose podcast, where our mission is to educate, elevate, and activate every man to truly live their best, most fulfilling life possible. To find out more about the podcast, our guests, or becoming a man on purpose, visit menonpurposepodcast.com and choose your most purposeful path forward.